Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome into Machine Heads from Compact Equipment Magazine. If you love construction equipment and you love talking about construction equipment, you're in the right place. Here on Machine Heads, we don't just talk basic horsepower and specs, we dig deep into the new features and technologies that are pushing the compact equipment segment forward. I'm your host, Wayne Grayson. Today on Machine Heads, we have a really great conversation coming up for you on electric excavators, specifically the JCB 19C-1E. And to do that, we're going to be talking with Lee Tice. Lee is the product manager for compact products and telehandler at JCB North America. So in this conversation with Lee, we hit on a lot of different stuff, kind of JCB's motivation in getting into the compact electric excavator segment, its perspective on this segment and the technology and kind of what it hopes to bring forward with this technology in terms of new products in the future, the capabilities of the 19C-1E compared to its diesel counterpart, and a lot more. So without further ado, let's get into our conversation with Lee Tice of JCB. Lee Tice, man, thank you so much for joining us today on Machine Heads from Compact Equipment. How you doing?
Not too bad. Glad to be here.
Well, let's hop right into it. We're going to talk about electric compact excavators. You guys have an excellent product on the market today, and I do want to get into the specifics of that machine, the 19C-1E. But first, I kind of want to talk about, kick things off with really a discussion around the state of the market from the perspective of JCB. And we'll talk a little bit about the timing and everything and why you guys decided to jump in here. But let's start with this. From the perspective of JCB, you know, what have you guys seen in terms of the demand for these machines, the specifically the compact electric excavator, and you know, what do you guys believe from like the development standpoint that customers are really looking for in these machines in particular, and why they're most interested in them?
Yeah, so from a demand standpoint, it's really grown tremendously with knowledge of the product. So obviously you introduce something new such as an electric piece of construction equipment to the market, and no one wants to be the first to say, hey, I'll jump on that bandwagon. But as the knowledge surrounding the electric products has grown, so has the demand with our customers, and they understand that you can now have an electric product with the benefits of zero emission, low noise, and no loss in performance by going to that electric product. So it's been very well received in the market, and we're extremely excited about it.
Now, how long have you guys had this machine on the market officially?
Since 2019 was the first introduction of the electric mini excavator.
Okay, awesome. I mean, so you guys are, if not the longest on the market.
So we were the first to introduce electric excavator to the market.
And now in those 3 or 4 years here, you know, what have you guys really kind of like learned in terms of some of the challenges that you initially faced, kind of developing that machine, and that you guys will kind of like put into products that are coming down the road?
Yeah, so there's obviously a number of challenges when you start pulling diesel engines out of machines and putting in batteries and motors and those kind of things.
Absolutely.
But it really comes down to that no loss in performance, and that's what we base everything off of. If a customer's running an 8-hour day, we want to develop the machine to give him the same run times and performance that he would have with the diesel equipment. So that's what most of the challenges are surrounded around, is making sure that the customer doesn't feel the difference going from a diesel machine to an electric unit.
Yeah, and tell us a little bit about how you guys have been kind of selling and marketing these machines, or what the approach to the customer has been. Have you been going after, you know, all compact customers? Did you guys kind of slowly roll this machine out? Tell us a little bit about the initial launch of this machine versus, you know, the availability of it today and how you guys are handling that.
Yeah, so I think it's really been a progressive state, as we'll call it. So you look at, it's not one of those machines that everyone's going to run out and say, hey, let's get an electric mini excavator like you would with electric cars people are doing. It's more of the applications. So what fits that customer's application and how the electric products are going to benefit the customer. So when you talk benefits, you're looking at obviously zero emissions, but low noise gives you extended work time. So you're talking work in cities, things like that, where people are trying to go to sleep, or you want to extend your work hours into a Saturday and Sunday when a lot of these high-end neighborhoods will not let a contractor in there to perform a job.
Right.
Well, now with a electric mini excavator, you can get into those work sites, you can work long hours, work through the night, and you're not disturbing the public around the work site, or there may be customers in the store, things like that. So it's really the applications that drive the demand for the electric product.
Yeah, and still, there's that cost benefit analysis is still a really big deal with these machines, because the cost is greater compared to the diesel counterpart, and you're really kind of looking at those specific benefits and whether or not you're willing to make that extra investment for it.
Certainly.
When it comes to the 19, tell us a little bit about the specifics around this machine, why you guys decided to go with this size machine, and kind of what sets it apart, maybe from its diesel counterpart, and what you guys are proud of in terms of the feature set that it offers.
So 19C-1E essentially falls in the 2-ton class for mini excavators, and when we look at that machine, like I've mentioned, it's essentially identical to its diesel counterpart from a construction standpoint. So chassis, boom dipper, all of those things are identical to the diesel counterpart, with no loss of dig depth, breakout force, any of those things. They all remain constant between diesel and electric. So essentially, if I was to hop off of a diesel unit, hop into an electric one, all of the same tasks can be performed. You don't know the difference, except for the fact that it's about 15 to 20 decibels quieter from an operator perspective.
Wow.
So the only difference is it's going to be much quieter for me, but I'm not going to lose any performance, anything like that. So still be able to perform all the same tasks.
Okay. And in terms of battery life, or the amount of range you get, how many work hours during a day, tell us a little bit about that, and tell us about the charging options, because I know that they're pretty extensive on this machine.
Certainly, yeah. So, and it's something that, like I said, we take a lot of pride in. When you start developing these machines, you don't want a guy to be constrained by the fact that the machine's going to require charging, those kind of things. So the machine was designed around using our telematics data. So JCB Live Link, we've had it on our diesel machines for many years, and we can essentially take that information and say, these machines, here's their runtime for a diesel machine. We want the electric machine to mirror that. So full 8-hour runtime of mini excavator use. So where these machines are not running constantly throughout the day. So when you look at a mini excavator usage, you're looking at 4 to 5 hours of runtime per day. The guy performs a job, he hops off the thing, gets on a skid steer, whatever it may be. But it's not like the machines are continuously running from a mini excavator standpoint. So,
right.
So that's what we've designed the machine around. So you get about 5 hours continuous runtime, but it takes it through that full 8-hour day of mini excavator usage.
And then, what are the charging options?
Yep, so we talked charging. So 3 different options for charging on the mini excavator. So you're going to have a 110 volt charging system. So this is no different than the cord that we all plug into our house into duplex plugs. 110 volt charge times around 12 hours. We offer a 220 charge option, which is going to take it down to about 8 hours. And then you have a rapid charger or fast charger that drops that charge time to 2.5 hours. So, and what that comes down to is really what that customer application is. So if you got a guy running one shift, so he does a job during the day, he goes home at night, plugs the machine in, it's going to charge overnight, he's going to be good to go the next morning. So the 110 volt charge system really would work for him. But then you get into some of these multi-shift jobs where maybe they're running 2 shifts or working long hours into the night, where they may need that 220 volt 8-hour charge time just to quickly bring the machine back up. And if you start talking 3-shift applications, things like that, continuous usage, that's where that rapid charger really comes into play. Charge it up between shifts, things like that, and machines back in business. So,
what are some of the give us an idea of some of the customers that have really in these 4 or 5 years that you guys have had this machine on the market? What are some of the customers? Maybe some anecdotes, stories that have really embraced this machine and are really seeing kind of big benefit from its being an electric machine.
Yeah, so I'm not going to call any names here, but one story really stands out in my mind. It's got a contractor that's a customer of ours that does a lot of work in a 24/7 retail store that we're all pretty familiar with.
Okay.
So the store never shuts down. So he's using a 19, he's going into the store, they're doing renovations, things like that, where they're having to actually break the floor out of the building, get into pipe work, things like that. And he's coupled the 19 with another one of our electric products, the HTD5E. So he's excavating and hauling material off with essentially zero noise is his benefit, no emissions inside the building with customers around. And that, like I said, that story really stands out to me because it's something we can all relate to. I've been in stores at 2 o'clock in the morning and there's all kinds of random things going on. But when he tells you there's a mini excavator in there digging the floor out of there while customers are in the store, that's pretty impressive. So
yeah, no, that is a tailor-made application story for these machines for sure. What are some of the other and obviously like the indoor construction, indoor demolition, from you guys' perspective, I mean, are these being used very much on kind of like the typical dirt work applications or sites like that? What are you guys seeing from that?
When you start talking some of this inner city work, and you're in the middle of a city at nighttime, so you put it in a major city, and you're in the middle of people and businesses and everything else where you don't want to cause disruption. So we are seeing them do jobs that typical diesel machines would do, where you don't want the noise and emissions associated with the machine. Some other applications, you start talking nighttime work in the same areas or in rural areas where you also don't want to disrupt people that may be in the area, but equestrian or kind of work around animals, things like that, where they're sensitive to noise. So that's another area that the machine really benefits. And food applications. So you start talking some of the other electric products around food grade, things like that, where the zero emission stuff really, they don't allow them into their building. So
okay. What are some of the things that customers that have given these machines a shot? Has there been anything that they've been particularly surprised about, or maybe any kind of maybe skepticism that they've come into it with that the machine has kind of allayed? Talk a little bit about, I guess, like the power, the responsiveness, and some of the other things that might surprise.
Yeah, so before you said power and responsiveness, that's where I was going to go with it, because that is one that we get quite often. Is we're so used to jumping in a diesel machine, and first thing you do is you're going to want to get those RPMs up. So you stomp the throttle and you bring the RPMs up, and then you start operating the machine. Or you turn the knob and bring the RPMs up. But with the electric products, obviously that's not the case. So your thumb wheels and your controls are proportionate to the amount of input that you give them. So it's not I have to stomp the throttle. It's if I move the stick harder, the machine instantly moves and it responds accordingly. So the feel is that the machine is more responsive because you're not having to spool the RPMs up and those kind of things. So
awesome. And when it comes to kind of how you get into one of these machines, whether you're renting or you're buying, tell us a little bit about what customers should kind of think about when it comes to that cost benefit analysis, whether maybe you just want to try one out and you go for the rental option, or you're going to go ahead and purchase one of these. Can you give us any kind of insight about what a customer should really be thinking about when trying to make that decision?
Certainly, yeah. So we do have these machines in the rental sector, so you can rent our machines through any of the major rental houses. But one thing that customers should look at is the fact that the usage time that they're going to have it. So from a purchase standpoint versus a rental, are you going to just need the job where the application fits for a week, or is it a month-long job, or is this going to be a long-term project or something that you're going to need the machine more than just a typical rental would be? And that's really what it boils down to. Rental rates on these machines are going to pull more of a premium for the electric products. Obviously, so with the purchase premium comes, that's passed on through the rental side of it. So,
Right.
And also what your state, local government offers from an incentive side. So there are a number of incentives out there that will offset the cost of the electric product. So if they're in one of those areas, California, for instance, where this machine has huge incentives, things like that, that may be an incentive to buy versus rent if it's going to be one of those long-term projects.
What are we looking at in terms of kind of the price comparison between electric and the diesel counterpart?
So roughly 35 to 40% difference between the diesel and electric machine. So
Okay, I mean, and that's actually better than some of the other options out there on the market.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, what are some of the bigger features and maybe some of the other applications that really you guys are seeing? Kind of, is it just higher utilization, or is it kind of like a gateway machine to where you have this machine with this very distinct feature set, and it kind of opens up maybe more work or a different type of work than guys were doing before? It kind of reminds me, the discussions remind me a little bit around of kind of when machine control was just kind of getting started, and the guys that were really early adopters on that, right? And now in a lot of applications and instances, it's kind of like a non-starter if you don't have the precision and kind of some of the automation features and the efficiencies that come along with machine control. Do you guys see that kind of happening with these electric machines? Obviously tied to the electrification of the machines, the automation of the machines too. That's definitely a big part of this. They're really, really tied together, as that you kind of had to have electrification to automate the machines in the future. This question has kind of gotten blended into two, but I guess the first part of the question, really is kind of, is it opening up different types of work, and then what are you guys looking at in terms of the future of kind of like this electrification platform and what it might unlock for future feature sets?
Yeah, I definitely think it's opening up doors for different kinds of work. Like I said, some of these applications where you typically couldn't put a diesel machine in there and do certain jobs, you now can. So I think it definitely opens a door. I think it's something that's going to be very good for the industry. And then from a JCB standpoint, it's really we look at this as from an electric product standpoint compared to an electric vehicle. So from a class standpoint, so compare that electric mini excavator to an electric car. Whereas when you start getting up into the larger machines, things like that, you start comparing them to maybe a city bus. And then heavy line, you're talking compared to a train or something like that, freight train. So larger usage, high volume, things like that. So we're kind of evaluating the electric market to that electric vehicle market. So really, it feels like you hit a point where you say electric may have its limits, but we're looking at other models that in the compact, subcompact categories that can come into the electric range, things like that. So yeah, it's kind of where we are.
Okay.
I hope that answered the question there.
Yeah, no, like absolutely. No worries. I mean, with this machine, you mentioned kind of like the potential of kind of expanding into other types of machines and everything else like that. What is what is kind of the main thing that I guess you have customers kind of think about whenever it comes time to really examine whether or not they want to make this investment, and I guess like the long-term nature of it, how long it'll be around for, because there's a lot of folks out there that kind of think it's the technology itself, it might be a flash in the pan, but clearly based on what you just said, JCB is kind of committed to seeing this through, and feels that it has wider appeal and application kind of moving forward.
Yeah, so we really just want the customers to understand that kind of the research and background is there with JCB. We have invested quite a bit into our off-road to zero, we'll call it. So, and the ultimate fact that there is no loss in performance. This machine, like I said, you really will not feel the difference in performance from diesel to electric. So it's just kind of driving that home with the customer, and then just showing them kind of our investment to the zero emissions green future.
Well, Lee, man, thank you so much for taking the time today, and hope to do this again soon.
Awesome. Thank you for your time.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for our conversation here on Machine Heads with Lee Tice. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you again to Lee for hopping on and joining us on this conversation on the 19C-1E. Very much appreciated. Guys, if this was helpful to you in any kind of way, if you liked it, be sure to do us a favor and hit that like button below, and leave us a comment in the comments as well. And be sure to subscribe to Compact Equipment here on YouTube. It really helps us out, bringing you more content and more videos just like this one. Thank you guys so much again for the time. We really appreciate it. We'll see you in the next one.